Okay, and we are live here for May 18th, our Steelers Depot Monday live stream. New headset, Dave. Dave, I know you will be testing audio. I think it'll sound pretty good, though. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. All right.
Hopefully I do sound a little bit better. We'll
Mm-hmm.
start finding out when some of these people come in here.
Yeah, chat can let us know. Give it a couple minutes here. As always, if you're new to the chat, we are here, Dave and I, for an hour till 8 p.m. Eastern Time, answering your Steelers questions. This is a time for us to answer whatever is on your guys' mind. And so, yeah, looking forward to that and looking forward to the big news of the day here. And I legitimately have watched this video maybe 15 times, the video of Ben back throwing passes.
Yeah, what an exciting day, for sure. And look, I mean, this is something that's part of the process with him getting back. He talked all along about how that beard. I was expecting him to shave it completely, but I guess trimming is just as good. But
Mm-hmm.
as soon as he threw an NFL pass, which he evidently has done in a recent workout with Juju, Ryan Switzer, and James Conner. So monumental day. He stole the news cycle today.
Yeah, hey, I'm not mad about that, especially on a Monday with not a whole lot going on. Thank you for being here, Mutated Gino. Know you've been here for, I think, every chat and just commented on my one video, so I appreciate that. And thanks to everyone who has been here. Feel free to leave a question in the chat, and again, let us know how we are audio-wise. I think my headset, you guys have said, has sounded okay. I've had it for 2 or so weeks now. I know Dave just got his new headset and testing it out, so please, if you could, give your feedback on how the audio sounds.
I'm not seeing the live link here to yours. It takes forever for it to show up on YouTube, I guess,
I
huh?
guess. I don't know why that is. YouTube's a whole bag of
Why don't you
mystery.
how do these people do they get notified, or how do they see it up?
It should come up. It's supposed to come up. It's usually a bit of a delay, I guess. But yeah, it should be I've gotten a live alert or something in their feed.
Okay.
I mean, even on my channel, even if you go to my YouTube channel, it just doesn't show up at all.
I'm not seeing it.
No.
Not seeing it. Channels.
I mean, to be there. I mean, I'm sure I believe you that it's not there. Mutated Genome. I don't know how you guys have found it. Someone found it.
Ask Gino how they know when it's
Hmm.
live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you guys see it? Did you guys get an alert? Because it came up for me, but I don't know if it came up for most people. Nick, yep, he's back. Big Ben is back. So that was just a great first step. He seems to be on schedule. Solar verse 6, thank you so much for being here. Yeah, very exciting news. Very exciting news indeed about Big Ben and his return and the lack of a beard, or at least trimmed beard.
Did you post a link anywhere yet?
No, I haven't. I can do that though. I'll send you the link. Hot Dog Bun 96 says it was in my recommended, so everyone's getting the alert. Okay, let me go ahead and send you a link, Dave. I'll have to turn my screen off here for a moment. Make sure I have the right image up. Oh, that's the wrong image.
Huh, it's weird. I don't see the.
All right, we'll go ahead and answer some. Oh, well, you can't see the questions, I guess. You can't answer the questions.
Uh,
All right, let me pull up the link here. Again, thank you guys so much for being here. Leave some questions about the Steelers, about the Ben news, or anything that you guys want to know about in the chat, and Dave and I will talk about it here in just a moment. All right, let me DM Dave the link to it. You guys are saying you got the alert. Nick asks, why does Ben love Switz like he's wide receiver too? Yeah, it's a good question, but he does love Switz. I think Switz is just a good guy, so I think that's how that starts. Okay, Dave, I sent you the link, so that should get you into the chat. And yeah, let us know again how we are audio wise. I know Dave has a new headset.
okay, I see it.
Okay, you good?
Okay, got it.
In? Okay, cool.
All right, testing. How am I sounding on this new headset? Good? Worse? Same old crappy Dave?
I think you sound pretty good. But you guys who are listening can let us know because you'll be the better judge than I am right now. So please let us know audio stuff, and then once we get that out of the way, we can definitely go through the chat here. George has a question. Alex, after seeing the schedule, did you make a prediction? I see 10 to 11 wins, but you never know. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm kind of in that 11-5 camp. This is an 8-8 team last year with one of the worst, most putrid offenses in football. So I think that 11 wins is not out of the question. I think the AFC North is definitely going to be a challenge, but 10 to 11 is kind of that typical safe zone for Steelers fans. Dave, you
10,
thinking
10, 10, 10 and 6.
10-6? That's your classic, your go-to, 10-6.
Absolutely.
PB Snell Sr. says audio sounds good, so we're happy to hear that. Let us know if you guys agree with him and things sound clear and crisp on your guys' end. And any other Steelers questions you guys might have, you feel free to jump in and ask. To whether you want to talk about upcoming, training camp questions and state of the league and Ben related stuff and whatever you guys have on your mind. Dave and I'd be more than happy to answer.
Yeah, and I thought it was good too. James Conner was on the Adam Schefter podcast this afternoon after the Ben news broke, and he says he looks good, and he's evidently worked out with him a couple of times as well. So it sounds like Conner had started his offseason training down in Florida, is now back in Pittsburgh, resuming that training, and part of that resumed training has been working out a couple of times with Roethlisberger. So it sounds like the plan is to continue those. I don't know when or how or who, but you would think at least Juju, Connor, and Switzer would be part of those. So look, as we've said all along, until we have a reason to not think that Ben won't be good to go or be the same old Ben, then we have to believe that it's possible.
Yeah, no, I agree. It sounds like your audio. Maybe you guys told me this. It was fading in and out a little bit. I'm not sure why that is. It might be the noise reduction setting in your software, Dave. So maybe tweak that a little bit in terms of raising it to a higher number.
Okay.
I don't know, because I know I had that. Yeah, I had that issue. But I think it sounds good otherwise. Nick says, I think Switzer is all right, but he's not Edelman like Ben believes he can be. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Switzer's at least a different type of receiver on this roster. I mean, talent is obviously, not what I'm talking about, but just in terms of that true slot, he's kind of the only guy that exists in that role. Deontay could be, but he's going to play outside at the X spot. So they just have a good relationship, I think, and that's why they're so close.
When it comes to him, and as people know, and as I've said all along, even dating back to last year during the preseason and all, you better have a good reason for holding on to him, because just how he's, or if you are going to hold on to him, you better use him, start using him a little bit different in the route concepts, because his average depth of target and average depth of reception just isn't there. It's just a lot of wasted touches when he does get touches. I mean, outside of that 3-yard out on 3rd and 1, he's really, you're not getting a good return on offensive production, and being as how he only touches the ball two times a game on average, maybe, and he's out there for a lot more snaps than that. It seems like you're spinning your wheels with him.
Yeah, but there is still a path for him to make the 53, although I'm sure most people are hoping he doesn't. But outside of your top 4, Juju, Deontay, James Washington, and Claypool, the spots are open. They're going to keep at least 5, potentially 6. So there is an opportunity there for them to make the team, whether fans like it or not. Hey, Grant, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Mutated Genome says that, Dave's volume fluctuates up and down. I had an issue with that with my noise reduction settings, so I think that might be the cause there. But we'll keep playing around with it, and you guys keep asking questions so we can keep talking and answering questions, and then also testing some audio as well. Again, we are here till 8 p.m. Eastern time. Talking about
where's that noise reduction at in my regular settings here? I see broadcaster 2 and go which way with it?
To the right a little bit. What number is it at now? Like -18?
Looks like it's -18.
Okay, just try to move it up to the right a little bit.
To like 15?
Yeah, maybe 10 or something.
Oh, 10? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember I tried it all the way to like -60 as far left as it would go, and I was fluctuating in and out a lot too. So that's just my first thought there.
All right, I moved it to -10, so okay. People let me know if I'm dropping in and out again.
Sounds good right now. Hey, Brian, thanks for being here. I'm doing well. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope everyone is staying safe. Nick asked, what did you think of Ben throwing? I said this at the very top of the chat before most people got here. I think I watched that video like 15 or 20 times. I don't know. It's a very simple video, but I got really hyped for it. And Brian also asked first impressions. And so, Dave, what were your first impressions of that video Ben posted?
Yeah, other than just glad to see it, it's just part of the process. I mean, I've obviously played it a bunch too, just because it's kind of a hype. It is what it is. It's a hype video, and it's supposed to get you hyped and watching it, several times there. But I don't read too much into didn't break it down from a technique aspect or anything like that. Just glad to see him throwing again. And obviously he's putting some mustard on the football because he's considered now that at this point he's thrown an NFL pass. So I
Right.
think that's the big takeaway.
Yeah, I'm with what Brian said. Visibly smiled. The video got me pretty excited. Sure, yeah, it's not supposed to be some sort of big analysis of it. It just excited as a milestone that's been achieved. And one underrated factor for Ben is that he's got to learn how to trust that arm again. It's the first time he's had kind of a serious arm injury, certainly one that ended the season like this. So I'm sure there's going to be an element of just getting trust in your arm again, feeling like you can rip it, not having that maybe fear in the back of your head of, oh my goodness, am I going to hurt myself again? So I'm sure that's a mental obstacle that maybe it's not huge, but something he has to overcome here these next couple of months.
I think the timing of this is excellent too, with the news coming out late last week. The team facility will be opening up. I think for the Steelers, that'll be slowly reopening starting Tuesday, tomorrow, and obviously only players who are rehabbing or getting treatment
Mhm.
can return. So obviously he fits into that category there, and they technically haven't been able to get their hands on him yet for most of the offseason here. So I think with him, putting his video out and then having the facilities open, starting Tuesday, you would think at some point this week he'll be able to get in there and they'll be able to put their hands on him a little
Yeah,
bit.
I hope so. Grant Humphrey, well, Jeff Valin says Ben will be MVP. I certainly hope so, but I think he can be comeback player of the year. He'll probably be a front runner up there with Gronk. Grant Humphrey asks, reasonable stat line for Ben next year. I don't have a number. Playing all 16 games will be good enough for me because that probably means obviously means he stayed healthy and probably means he played really well as well. I would say, it's not going to be the 650 passes Dempsey had 2 years ago, but if he throws 25 to 30 touchdowns, under 10 receptions, I don't know, 3,500 to 4,000 yards, maybe closer to 4,000, then I think he's had a really productive year.
Yeah, I think 4,000's right, in the realm right there.
Mhm.
You don't want to get into a situation where he's having to throw as much and as many yards as he did a couple seasons ago. I think that's a sign that your defense hasn't been playing well and you're facing a lot of long fields on top of it. So
Mhm.
I think anywhere between, I don't know, 3,500 and 4,500 yards. I know that's a large span there. I mean, but I think realistically it's going to be around 4,000 yards if indeed he does play 15 games. What is that? Was 4,000 breakdown even divided by 15?
Yeah, I don't know the exact math off the top of my head, but that sounds about right. So yeah, 4,000 yards, around 25 to 30 touchdowns, 10 or fewer ish interceptions, maybe a little bit more because it is Ben, and he'll throw a couple. But I think that would be a really good year for him. Mutated Genome asks, James Lockhart, what do you know about him, Dave? You did the contextualization on all of his sacks. Bleacher Report, for whatever it's worth, just named him the most exciting Steelers UDFA. What do you know about James Lockhart, the rookie linebacker from Baylor?
Yeah, I think it's the fact that we're quoting Bleacher Report here.
Sure. That
Uh,
that part aside, your own eyes on him.
Yeah. Look, I mean, here's the thing that stuck out is he does have some pass rush moves. You see him use the counter. I mean, yeah, use the rip and you don't see. I don't think you see a lot of bull rush in him or anything, but you see a lot of him either winning on the edge like via a rip or with a quick step inside or with him going up the arc and then coming back up and countering back up off the arc. Now, here's the thing about him though is he will get stymied. He's one of those guys that initial move. He's got to really work on those counters. He's one of those guys that if he gets up the arc or gets into the half man or a full man, on the outside, and that first move gets countered, he kind of struggles at times. Now, a couple of those sacks I think were effort sacks with the quarterback coming out of the pocket and then him peeling off of his blocker and getting those. But then again, you turn around and you look at the sack against, in fact, the one against Oklahoma. That is his signature sack where you get to see the rip there, and then one against Georgia is the one with the nice inside move where the tackle just guessed wrong and overset to the outside, and it's one of those got him,
Hmm.
kind of moves. So there's a little something to work with, but I think it's a little bit too far fetched to call him the most exciting undrafted free agent Steelers have this year.
Sure, and Devin Snowden a few minutes later said how James Lockhart named the most exciting when he had the most horrible tape coming out of college. To me, he's not the most exciting. I've looked at Josiah Coatney and probably Trayon Bandy as the most exciting Steelers UDFAs.
I wouldn't say Lockhart had the most horrible tape. It just was, you remove those sacks out, and just really kind of uneventful. Now Baylor had a good front, man. There's a stat if you watch the entire, I think it's the entire Oklahoma game. They're talking about the number of like sacks and pressures they got with just 3 men up front. Now, obviously, my boy, who was my nose tackle that came out of there?
Bravion Roy. Went to Carolina.
Bravion Roy. Look, I mean, that says something if you're able to do that with 3-man pressures, throughout the season. Now was Lockhart a big part of that? Not so much, but I mean, it wasn't horrible tape. It just the tape in general as a whole doesn't wow you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Baylor had a good front. They had Roy, James Lynch, a couple of guys that were drafted. So they definitely had a good front and pass rush. George Rice, Switz don't drop the ball, nothing after the catch, but that's what he gives you. Move the sticks, possession receiver. Yeah, I think in a best case scenario, that's who Ryan Switzer is. Northtop says, I know he, referring to Ben, was throwing with Juju, but were there any other receivers he was throwing with? According to the video, it was Juju, Switzer, and James Conner. Maybe because they were in the area. They was all done in Pittsburgh.
Where's that Quaker High School at?
I'd have to look. I saw that Ben got his beard trim and haircut at Swickley, which is basically Pittsburgh suburbs. So I imagine Pittsburgh suburbs area.
Okay.
James R. Bacote. Will the defense improve with Ben's return, which should produce more scoring? That's a really interesting question. I have kind of a longer answer on that, but I'll let you answer that first, Dave.
Repeat it.
Will the defense improve with Ben's return, which should produce more scoring?
Heck, if that defense plays like they did last year, I'm fine with it. I think from the sheer fact that maybe they won't be on the field as much,
right.
But potentially if you have a few longer drives in it, because remember, this team turned the ball over a whole heck of a lot offensively last year, and that automatically puts your defense out there. So I think from a talent perspective, and Alex and I have talked about this quite a bit on the podcast, look, I mean, you only really have lost 2 guys from that defense. Now, Hargrave's obviously the bigger of the two, with Mark Barron being the other one, and you would hope through some conglomeration of Vince Williams or Ulysses Gilbert III or a sub-package defensive back, whatnot, you'll be able to make up for Barron's loss a little bit more easier there. But you got Bush playing in the second year here. You got Minkah Fitzpatrick playing a second year here. You got Nelson, who had a great first year, I thought, returning for another year with this team as well, too. So, yeah, I mean, I guess that's a long answer to saying, yeah, if the offense is better, you would think it's going to result in the defense spending less time on the field, and the less time your defense is on the field, the better.
Right. I'm going to offer devil's advocate here in my Galaxy brand idea, but let me just start by saying I think the defense will have a very good year, and they're not going to fall apart, and it's going to be, I think, a really good year for the defense. But I will say, I know the mentality last year for the defense was we have to make these plays, because if we don't make these plays, if we don't create these turnovers, this offense cannot pick up the slack. So I'm not saying that they would take their foot off the gas, but that mentality just wouldn't exist there if they feel like they have the comfort of Ben. So I know that's a weird way to look at it. Again, this defense will play really well, but last year there was such a mentality of we not only have to play well defensively, we have to take the football away because we have to give our offense every opportunity possible and every short field possible. And maybe that mindset is just a little different in 2020.
They might not have the turnovers they had last year. I think that's a little bit tough to ask.
Right.
But on the flip side, they better hit that magic number that what is it, 25, 28?
Of what number?
The turnover.
Yeah. What was it, 25? Yeah, 25 was
25, right.
Which I think
so
they can do.
Yeah, I think they can do that. Now, will they hit the what would they have, 30?
38?
36, 38,
36, one of the two.
One of those two. So that might be reaching a little bit. And also, heck, if they're not on the field as much, they're probably not going to be in maybe more of those turnovers come late when opposing offenses are pressing a little bit more. But look, it's hard to predict and plan for those kind of things, right? So you just hope that they at least hit that magic number and at least play on a success rate and a average yards per attempt basis, the same that they did last year.
And it'll be nice for them to maybe play with a lead early in a game for once, because this offense on
Mm-hmm.
their opening possession last year, I think, had 6 points, 3 points, I think, pair of field goals, and one of them was thanks to a turnover against the 49ers. So, I mean, offense going down scoring 7 is something we literally have not seen for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Hot Dog Bun 96 says, I also watched the video at least 100 times today, so I'm excited for Seven to be back. We are excited as well. Brian asks, do you think Tuitt will be dominant? Seemed like he was maybe the best of the bunch on the D-line through a few games last year. I'd go further than that, Brian, say he was the best player on that Steelers defense, period, before getting hurt last year. If he's healthy, I assume he will be. I think he'll have a really good year.
Yeah, look, I mean that's something you and I have hit on recently on the podcast as well too. Yeah, if he wasn't the best, if he wasn't the defensive MVP through 5 games, then he was definitely co-MVP along with Minka Fitzpatrick. At that point. So I mean, I'll answer that the way I answer the Ben questions. We have no reason to believe that he won't be able to pick up where he left off at. Obviously, we're not in the training room, but I mean he should. It was good to hear Mike Tomlin talk about Stephon Tuitt to close out last week there and say he should be good to go. So that's a good sign there.
Let's see. George Rice says, Ben will take about 4 to 5 games to get in a flow. He usually starts off slow even when healthy. I hope it's not 4 to 5 games because that's over a quarter of your season, though it will be interesting to see what kind of rust there will be. It'll maybe be partially dependent on what kind of action he gets in the preseason, which I still don't know what direction they want to go in with that in terms of Ben's rehab recovery and then putting him in action in the summer. James R. Bacote. Ben, Stephon, and healthy Connor should put them in contention for the title, or will the offensive line be a concern? No, I think, James, that they should be in contention for AFC North race. I think Baltimore's still the favorite. I think they've earned that right, but I think Pittsburgh can be right there, and I think that this team can go 11-5, no problem. I mean, assuming all those things that you mentioned, those guys stay healthy, those things fall into place. But yeah, I think they can be right up there. Steeler for life. Do you think they gave Ben a bionic arm? The technology is there. Hey, do whatever they want. By the way, that video that Ben posted, where do you think that first clip of him on the plane was? That's after injury, pre-surgery? When do you think that was?
Because it wasn't wrapped or anything like that. I'm imagining that was on the flight out to wherever he had the surgery. It was L.A., right?
I think it was California. Okay,
or somewhere in California. So I'm guessing that was. I mean, if you look close, I mean, the arm's not wrapped or anything like that. So I'm imagining that that was on the flight out there.
Okay, that makes the most sense.
I can find the answer to that. I will find the answer to that. I'll get a hold of Aaron.
Okay. I mean, it has to be, because when else would it have been? Obviously, it was post-injury, and then anything after, he would have either been in the sling or had the beard. So that has to be in. But yeah, they get some. I saw Pat McAfee talking about it. There was a lot of confusion, and I was kind of even confused too, exactly on the time frame for that. Nick says, nothing more Yinzer than throwing outside of a get-go. I'm not entirely sure what that's in reference to. Is there a joke in there I missed? Not a Jeff Reed joke, because it's not a Sheets, but okay. Julian Washington. Hey guys, I just graduated college after years of study in biotechnology, but my graduation was canceled. Could I get a shout out? Congratulations, Julian. That's awesome. I'm so sorry you couldn't have a graduation like normal, but I'm thrilled for you. I know, Dave, you're thrilled for him too.
Absolutely. Throw your hat up.
Congrats again, Julian. Good luck. Mita the Genome asks, how high is Isaiah Bugg's ceiling? I think he was impressive in 75 snaps last year. It was a small sample size, but I think his ceiling could be a good pass rusher, and maybe in terms of ceiling, I think it could be a starting 3-tech.
I think that's a little rich, but
I mean, I'm talking to ceiling. I'm not saying he will be, but if you want to go ceiling, I think he should enough. I mean, I think most likely he's a rotational guy.
Yeah, I think he's a rotational guy, and I think that might be more of his ceiling.
Suleiman Jelani says, looking at team post-draft with linebacker and safety being pressing needs from a depth standpoint, do you think a defensive-heavy draft would have been better? I think you just want to acquire talent, considering the lack of draft capital. 1 pick in the top 50, 1 pick in the top 100, 2 in the top 102, especially in a year where information was scarce. And again, getting a receiver, getting someone like McFarland that maybe can help you right away. Dotson for offensive line depth, which I think was important. I think the expectation was they were going to go offense, and I'm not mad that they did lean heavy on offense this draft. Let's see. James Arbacote. Dave T was an excellent guest. Great insight and relieved me of any draft concerns. Yeah, Dave T's always, had a great reception on the podcast, and hopefully we'll keep having him on in the future. Captain Spartan 04. Kind of low-key news. Tyler transferred to Maryland. That's Tua's younger brother, I believe. This is just a
Mhm.
future quarterback to look out for. We'll have better insight on him than other teams with Dino at Maryland, NFL Bloodlines, of course, with brother. Yeah, I saw some of those comments about that. Obviously, you won't have Matt Canada's insight, which I think was the driving force behind drafting the Maryland guys, but that's a name to keep an eye on. And I wrote the article last week, Dave, and I'll get your input on this. Is like this is kind of make or break for Mason this year, where he's either got to really show he can take that next step forward in preseason and training camp, regular season should come to it, and if he can't, then this team's probably going to start thinking about their next quarterback to be the actual heir to Ben.
Well, I think the summer alone, and I mean, here's to hoping that we don't have to see Mason do anything, but maybe do a couple of kneel downs or maybe playing a in a regular season finale because of something being all sewn up at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you back it up then and look at to training camp and the preseason, and those are the times that that's going to be their best point to evaluate. And once again, if they're having to evaluate him for multiple games during the season, that's not going to be good.
Right.
So let's just leave it at it's a big summer for Mason Rudolph.
I agree. James R. Bacote, Dave T was not big on Ebron, even stated he, quote, faked injuries. What's your take on Ebron? Yeah, I know there was an issue with the Colts and they weren't happy with how things ended with his ankle surgeries and basically accused him of shutting things down. I can't comment on that, but I think he can be a red zone weapon. It can be a vertical threat and a move tight end that they haven't had really in forever, except save for 3 games from Ladarius Green.
The less that Ben's able to work with him this offseason, you have to lower your expectations, I think. Almost just like, remember how excited people were when Vance McDonald came to town. Granted, he didn't get to town until he missed all the OTAs, right?
Yeah, it was middle of training camp he got traded.
And then didn't he get off to kind of a little, I can't remember, did he get off to kind of a little bit of slow start in training camp with something? I don't remember if that was second year or first year.
I think he missed the opener with I can't remember the
it seems like he did, but regardless, look, people, it's going to be huge for new players on this team not having an off season to work through here. There's a whole timing aspect, and you remember one of the things, even though Dante Moncrief didn't work out last year for this team. Remember him saying all off season about getting that time with Ben and getting the timing and those kind of things and how important that is. I think that's a real important aspect. Now, am I saying that here's what I'm saying about Ebron? I would just lower the expectations on the total kind of receptions. Though I do think that you can get this guy involved right away. Obviously, with the red zone packages and where he's shown that he can be a threat there. The drops are a concern. There's no two ways around it. I mean, you just look at the tape and the drops stick out like a sore thumb. And his drop problem seems to come in flurries too. Like I think against the Raiders, one of those games, like 3 in that game on the first three targets with him. So it's the drop concern. And here's the other thing: you just not going to put him on the field, I don't think, in certain 2 tight end situations. So that's going to cut into his snap count as well too. So can you get 400, 500 offensive snaps out of him, and then what can he give you in there? That's what you need to figure out. But I mean, it's a little rich for my that's why I was surprised by the signing. $6 million for a guy that might give you 500 snaps, I think, in there. Now if he can load up on the red zone touchdowns there, then heck, it's worth it. But a little questionable areas there with him.
Right, and it is, while a 2-year deal, it functions as basically a 1-year deal where they can get out of it if it doesn't work out and basically have no dead money. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, you just got to treat it as if it is a 1-year deal.
Yeah. The good thing is for Ebron, it seems like he's healthy. He's progressing. You posted the video today of him on the jugs machine. So he's just himself. He's healthy, and that's going to be good for him because if he wasn't healthy and couldn't work with Ben, then it compounds the problem even more. Mike Cantwell says, do you think the Steelers bring back Mark Barron on a cheap deal for depth? He knows the playbook. I doubt it. I'm not going to rule that out 100%, Mike, but I'd be surprised if Barron was brought back.
Yeah, I'd be shocked at this point.
Yeah, and the weird thing with Barron, and I've said this before, and I've seen even some local media say it, is that they keep referring Barron to this hybrid type player. He was just a linebacker in Pittsburgh. He might have been hybrid before with the Rams or whatever. He was just a linebacker in Pittsburgh, so he doesn't offer any sort of unique skill set that other guys in the roster couldn't do or couldn't have.
And at his age now, he's not going to give you anything on special teams either. So.
Right. Right. Yeah, they got some guys like Gilbert and Spillane and some of the undrafted guys to be special team demons. Tim Ray asks, are there any studies on the depot that analyze the Steelers' defensive play calling tendencies as a whole, but also situationally? I mean, we have the defensive charting. If you could be more specific with what you might be looking for, Tim, I could answer that. I mean, we could probably do a little bit of that, though we don't have necessarily coverages and things charted. So I could offer some stuff like on blitzing and maybe some things like that in packages, but I couldn't maybe go as deep as maybe what you're asking there. Brian says, man, had to leave. Any chance you could re-answer my question about your thoughts on Tuitt this coming season? Sure, Brian, I'll just wrap up my thoughts briefly. I think Tuitt was the MVP, maybe the defense before getting hurt last year, and I think he'll have a really impressive 2020. The dude's so talented. Mike Cantwell, who would you like to see brought in to help with safety depth? It's very thin, and I don't trust Dangerfield covering. The market to me, Dave, unless you have a name, is just empty. So I think you're looking for a trade. I don't have any names listed yet. I wait until the summer to worry about that stuff, but there was just nothing on the open market right now.
And if it is going to be anything, it's going to be on the uber cheap. It's going to be a minimum signing benefit type deal more than likely, or taking advantage of those veteran credits. That's part of the CBA there. Now, more than likely, it's going to be if they do bring in another safety here, probably going to be under the age of 30. Probably going to be one that can help you out in some way, shape, and form on special teams, and probably one that's more probably better suited to play more free safety in the post than anything there. So whether it be the kid that we talked about, Tedrick Thompson out at Seattle. Now when they let him loose, it was there was it was because of injury there. He was listed with the failed physical tag. So I haven't seen maybe whatever he was suffering from, he gets over quick. But I mean, as of right now, it's hard to even build a short list of possible guys because of all the variables that player would have to kind of meet when it comes to the Steelers moving forward. I mean, they're not going to spend $2 or $3 million on one of these backup safety types. They're going to want them for a minimum. They're going to want them under 30. They're going to want them to be able to play special teams, and that already limits you.
Yep, that cuts on the list pretty dramatically to start. Aaron Turchett, speaking of safeties, he asks, do you think Terrell Edmunds will be here long term? Again, talk about guys with needing to have big years. It's Edmunds. Now, he's not a bust. He's not Jarvis. He's not Artie, but certainly, from a lack of playmaking standpoint, that's been the elephant in the room with him. This dude's got to be able to make some big plays.
Man, you have to, look. He a year from now, we'll know whether or not they will have picked up his 5th-year option, and it's hard. He really would have to blow it out this year for them to even consider that. And so
those are guaranteed now, right? It's not like the old one where you could kind of wait and see.
Right. So I mean, he's gonna. It's really a big year for him, and even if he played well, defining what well might be is kind of tough when it comes to a box safety. But it's hard to imagine they're going to pick up his 5th-year option by this time next year. So I don't think he's long term, if that's what you're asking. But there is room, and there's obviously room for improvement with him this season. And Lord, they need to see it.
Yeah, what is it? 2 takeaways in 2 years or 1? I forget what the number is, but I did the study a couple weeks ago, and it's historically low in terms of the amount of starting experience that they just. And for a defense that had 36, 38 takeaways, this dude couldn't record one of them last year. Like, it's just statistically, you think that he would just fall his way into one occasionally. So a big issue.
You think he'd get that? You think he'd get that Lawrence Timmons bounce?
Yeah, a fumble, a ball that just squirts to him. Something. I mean, it was remarkable. James R. Bacote, why are the Steelers so infatuated with hybrids? I'm a basketball guy, so you can explain in layman's terms. He also says loves the podcast. Thank you, James. I think Kevin Corbett's talked about it where, the NFL is so sub-packaged. It's not, you have your nickel defense, your dime, certain matchups, game plans. Some teams have good running backs that can catch. Some teams have tight ends. It'd be a big slot receiver. So you want to have guys that can kind of be an answer to everything. And so I think that's why they like sub-packaged players, somebody that can fill a specific role for a specific task. I think that's the reason behind wanting a hybrid type player.
Only 5 years behind Bill Belichick, right? When it comes to that.
All right. Yeah, they got some good ones. Patrick Chung, he's kind of more of a box safety, but I mean, he's been that just eraser at times for them. Let's hopefully that answered your question well enough, James. Devin, will they try to go out and get a safety? I think that's what if there's one position they would add this summer, I think it would be safety. But again, that's not going to happen until middle of August, late August, because they're going to evaluate their roster. They're going to see what injuries are. That's very typical for Kevin Colbert. So I think they're going to do basically nothing from now until middle of August, assuming the training camp occurs on schedule. Speaking of safety, Captain Spartan04 has a couple of names here that he wants to throw out there. This week's safety I'm looking at are from the Saints, Saquon Hampton from Rutgers, 6th round in 2019, no connections. JT Gray from Mississippi State, undrafted in 18, beast on special teams. We went to his pro day. I'll check those guys out, Captain Spartan. I don't have any other names right now. I had a list of free agents way back when, when the offseason first began, but I think all those guys have been signed now. Tim Ray says, responding to my question earlier, his question about our charting and do we have tendencies covered, like coverages, alignments, and such, given certain situations or against certain looks. I could do more for alignments. I won't have a whole lot for you in terms of our charting on coverages, but I could kind of give you a better idea based on alignments because we do chart where guys line up. Suleiman Jelani, if Juju, Connor, Villanueva, and Dupree all have good years, how would you prioritize handing out deals after this season? That's a big question, Dave, and I think some Steeler fans don't realize how many pending free agents, how many important pending free agents this team has.
Man, there really is. And look, if Juju and Connor both don't have if Juju and Connor both don't have deals come the start of this regular season, which it seems very unlikely that either will, there's a good chance both of them are gone. Now, Juju, obviously, you can prevent him. You can prevent either one of them hitting free agency by using a tag on him. But you only got one tag, and you're probably not going to use it on Connor, regardless of the season he has. So then you're looking at Juju. So I mean, legally, could they re-sign some of these guys before free agency? Yeah, but I mean, if these guys have gotten that far, especially skill position players like Juju and Connor, and Dupree too, for that matter, talking about him, if he doesn't have a long-term deal, those guys would be foolish not to hit free agency, at least test free agency at that aspect, at that point. So so basically he's questioning if all of them have good years, how would you prioritize handing out deals? I tell you what you do. If all of them have good years, then you look at Juju and say, was Juju's year good enough to warrant a franchise tag? Yes or no, and then that's it. Because the other guys, I mean, Villanueva's, I mean, you're not gonna be able to re-sign everybody. So some of these guys are gonna be gone. A lot of these guys are playing their final year. Matt Filer, Cameron Sutton, Mike Hilton. I mean, all those guys are scheduled to be unrestricted free agents, after the season as well too. And barring those guys signing deals before the start of this year, you have to think there's a good chance that most of, or not all of those guys might be flying the coop next March.
And oh, by the way, this team's not projected to have much cap space, and you can't bank on the cap going up like we could in past years because at best it may stay the same, but it's probably not going to go up really any sort of significance.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, to answer the question, it's hard to really rank it right now. I mean, obviously I can do that better once we get to that point, but I think the franchise tag for Juju is a possibility. It's going to depend on the seasons they have, of course. I know your question is if they all have good years. That's going to depend on what kind of money they're looking for. Dupree would cost a whole lot. Villanueva won't be cheap. I think Connor's gone. I think Juju potential for the tag. And so, yeah, that's where it's at. But as Dave said, it's a lot of free agents. It's a lot of guys that are important key roles. Hilton, Filer, Sutton, even Banner. His team could look very different a year from now. Mike Cantwell. So we can already pin Switzer in on the 53. He was in Ben's video and spotted at games with Ben. I don't think Ben will let them get rid of him. I wouldn't write him in pen, but I don't want to. I know a lot of fans are discounting Switzer as if he doesn't have a chance to make the roster. He was on my way too early 53-man roster prediction. I think there is a chance he makes it again.
I hope not, but you can't rule out the possibility of it. Especially if he's going to be your primary, punt returner along those lines. I would hate to think that Ben would be allowed to call the shot on a roster spot like that. But I guess stranger things have happened.
Yeah, and it's coming in those last 2 or 3 spots. Maybe Ben. Maybe he doesn't have to say it out loud, but maybe that feeling, he gets the point across that he would like to keep Switzer around. I mean, he's Ben. He's going to have influence and pull in that locker room. There's no denying that.
He doesn't offer you anything offensively, but go
Yeah.
ahead.
Tim Ray, Alex, and Dave, what would you consider your greatest strength when it comes to the depot, and/or what are your favorite things to analyze, discuss? Dave, for you, it's got to be what success rates. You got an article coming up on McCullers and Hargraves run defense success rates, right?
Yeah, look, I mean, I like it all. I don't know, obviously, I love the cap and have studied the cap and the CBA throughout the years, and
You love those
uh,
contextualizations. I know you've had a lot of fun
I
doing those.
love contextualizations, especially during pre-draft and all, and love breaking down film post games. When you have the all 22 to work with. Yeah, I mean, I like it all. I mean, that's why I started the site, I guess.
Mhm.
But yeah, love it all. I tell you what, I don't like is I don't like having to write about things that happen that aren't football related.
Right,
If
and
that
that's
makes
happened a
any
lot. That's
sense.
happened a lot lately.
Right.
Just AB stuff,
Way
and
too much. Way too much.
yeah, I like film room. I'm a film room junkie, so that's kind of my favorite thing, and hopefully I do a good job with it too. But that's for you guys to judge. Doug Swagger, percent chance Carlos Davis makes the roster, and do you think Switzer makes the team? As we just mentioned, I think Switzer has a better chance than most fans are willing to give him credit for, and I think Davis has a very low chance. I pretty confident we'll have to take an injury to someone ahead of him for him to make the 53.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm looking at success rates and all right now. We've done a lot of talking about the about the nose tackle position and whether or not it's a going the way of the dinosaur, if you will, and success what the success rates are against opposing running games, and the Steelers were as a whole good in that area last year, especially when Javon Hargrave was on the field. They weren't so as good against the run success rate wise when Dan McCullough was in the middle of the defense. However, I've gone and watched every one of those snaps today, and a lot of it's not on Big Dan.
Hmm.
So that's something after I post this post either later tonight or tomorrow, we're gonna have to go back in and have a talk about what was the cause for the run success rates being bad when Dan McCullers was on the field.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think success rates are important, and I know you've said, and I agree that they're more telling than just blanket yards per carry. But of course, success rates don't always tell you how the individual player anyone did on a particular play. So you have to look at the stats and watch a tape. Duck Swagger, who did you like more? Who did you like better coming out of college when we drafted them, McFarland or Snell? Honestly, for me, I thought they were going to draft Snell. I had him in my mock draft because it just felt like he checked every single box, and that's ultimately what happened. But I kind of like McFarland more just because he brings that speed, explosive element that I really even wanted last year before drafting Snell. I just figured they wouldn't do it, so I kind of like that getting that different kind of guy, different kind of running back. So I kind of like McFarland more than I like Snell.
McFarland's college tape is a lot more fun to watch
Yeah, that's true.
than Benny Snell's, and that's not taking anything away from Benny Snell. It's just they're two different running backs. And once again, it goes back to what we said a couple of weeks ago. Since what we watched a lot of film on McFarland after the draft is, man, it's a shame that I didn't watch more McFarland film prior to the draft because
Hmm.
had I done so, you and I talked the other day. What is the real differences between a guy like J.K. Dobbins out of Ohio State and McFarland, out of Maryland? I mean, yeah, more accomplished J.K. is had a lot more snaps, a lot more playing time. Obviously behind a lot better offensive line as well too. But going back to the original question there, McFarland's college tape a lot more interesting to watch than Benny Snell's
Hmm.
final 2 years at Kentucky.
Yeah, and now Snell was very productive at Kentucky, but it was more of a grinded out than it was McFarland.
Sure,
Big play,
sure.
fun play. Aaron Turchitz, if Ben gets hurt again this season, if we have one, do you think we draft a quarterback in the first round for 2021? Again, I think a lot depends on what Mason does under the premise of your question, how he would do in relief of Ben and how he does in camp and during the preseason. Again, I think this is really fight or flight for Mason Rudolph, and his play will help determine the future direction they go with quarterback.
I'm going to go on record right now and say that I don't think they're going to draft unless they're in top. Have a top 10 pick or whatnot, which Lord knows God hope they don't,
Hmm.
because something's gone horribly wrong. But unless I'm going to predict that they don't draft a quarterback this year. I think, look, even when you go back and listen to some of the press conferences and all, when they, talked about Ben and when they drafted, the plan never was to play Ben during his rookie season. Never.
Right.
You
It
know,
was supposed to
he
be behind Maddox, and that all
well,
changed
behind
6
Maddox
quarters in.
and Batch too.
Right.
Remember,
Right.
Batch got had the knee injury and all. They never imagined they would have been in a position that they were in 2004 with Ben, because that was not the plan. He was going to sit on the sidelines all season, as
Mhm.
far as they were concerned. But obviously injuries changed that, and they learned more. He obviously rose to the occasion right away, and the rest is history. But obviously a lot of things can change, between now and when next year's draft happens. But if I was to be a betting man right now, I'd bet no quarterback for the Steelers next year, and especially not in the first round.
Yeah, I don't know about first round, but I think it is possible. They drafted Mason in the third, traded up for him. Dobbs in the fourth. Now, granted, Dobbs was never viewed as the heir, but they can draft a quarterback after the first and still try to find someone that they view as is the future. So I think it's possible, but again, dependent on Ben, of course, and also primarily, I think, what happens to Mason Rudolph. Captain Spartan 04, we all think we can trade for a safety. Is there any player like Gerald Hawkins that we could possibly trade for a low draft pick? I want to have more draft picks because of all the upcoming free agents. No name jumps to mind immediately, although obviously camp will help create more clarity there. This time last year, Hawkins, we just a total dart throw, didn't know what he was going to do in terms of his rehab and recovery. So I have yet to think of a name, but I don't think about those things too much until we get into August and we start thinking about who really is going to make this 53 and who could be right on the bubble. Russ Obenstein, what's up, Heels Nation? Alex and Dave finally caught Monday's show live. Thank you, Russ. I appreciate it. I have not heard from you on Twitter in a little while, so I hope that you are doing well, my dude. Hugo Gonzalez, do y'all think we keep White, Kareth White he's talking about, as a kick returner? Maybe. I think it's possible, but I think his chances of making the roster took a big hit after the Steelers drafted Anthony McFarland Jr.
Yeah, him and Jalen Samuels probably not sleeping well at night
Yeah.
right now.
The old 2 dogs, 1 bone. It's kind of my vibe there for that 4th spot.
It might be it might be no bone in two
True.
dogs there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean generally they keep 3, but with all they keep drafting the position, I think that they probably will keep 4. It just who's that 4th going to be, and I give right now the slight edge to Samuels over White.
I hate to use this part of it, but these things always
Mhm.
magically wind up working themselves out for whatever reason, and let's hope that reason is not injury.
Yeah, fingers crossed for that. Duck Swagger, who would have a better chance of starting at left guard, Stefano Wisniewski or Kevin Dotson? I would go Wisniewski, but I still believe Matt Filer will be your week 1 starter at left guard against the Giants.
I tell you, kind of spinning off that question there, Duck Swagger. It's exciting to hear Dotson's at least center. It's something he's going to try to work with. Now obviously we hope that we never have to see it, especially not in his rookie season. But the more experience a guy like more position flexible guy can get. But make no mistake about it, this guy was a mauler, furniture mover at right guard at Louisiana Lafayette, and I think the hope is maybe towards the latter part of his rookie season, maybe you can get him in there at left guard. But worst case scenario, he's on the sideline all 16 games, and then maybe he competes for the starting left guard spot next year.
Yeah, I'm with you. I have a lot of long-term optimism with Kevin Dotson. I think he's a really talented player, and they got great value with him. I think him being a combine snub might have been the best thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he would have just really not. He would not been there at 135 had he been invited to Indy.
We're gonna have to remove that option from the Blues Clues moving forward. The old because there are a couple times I think you even chastised a mock draft or two of mine saying not a combine invite. So we're gonna have to remove that kind of stigma from the pre-draft
Well,
Blues Clues.
I mean, they are good for usually taking 1 pick that's not at the combine. Now, this was the highest they had taken since Ike Taylor, so there was a little bit of history sort of made there. But I don't know. It was just 1 pick. I mean, I'd have to look at the history, but it's not the first non-combine player they've ever taken, obviously. James R. Bacote, Vegas have the Steelers at 9 wins, I believe. Your prediction? I'm in that 10 to 11 range, and I think Dave's right there at 10, so I'd go with the over on that.
10-6.
Duck Swagger also asked, the man, the myth, the legend, Dave face reveal. Dave, you're at the portion on YouTube where everyone asks for face reveal. Very common. Are you going to do it?
Am I what? I got a face for radio.
All right, taking that as a no.
No, I don't even have a camera on any of these
Yeah.
here. I always buy the ones without a camera.
Yeah, but YouTube is all about the face reveals. So just forewarn, there won't be the last time that you're asked, I don't think. Hard Punk Core finally catching a Monday live. Thank you so much for being here. Why does it seem like everyone is down on the ability of the Steelers front office to get a deal done with Dupree before the deadline? Dave, I'll let you take this one.
Repeat that.
Why does it seem like everyone is down on the ability of the Steelers front office to get a deal done with Dupree before the deadline?
I think price and guaranteed money is everything here. I don't know if it's people being down on it. The Steelers have said right from the get go when they franchise a player, they do so with the intention of signing that player to a long term deal. Well, also I firmly believe that they know that the asking price is going to start at the average yearly value of what the tag is, and that's what 15.7, 15.8. I forget what the exact number is there. I'm willing to bet Dupree's numbers more along the lines of 17 to 18, maybe. All right. And then you have the old guarantee money, and the Steelers with these kind of contracts, usually what they pay in year one is it for non-quarterbacks. So what did we say that money's likely to be? Between 20 and 25 million. Remember, I can't remember what my you got. Pull up my demo contract while you're there.
Okay.
The demo, the Dupree projected contract.
I gotcha. Also, Hard Punk Core says Bell was the last player they failed to sign, but he had lofty demands. Dupree isn't Bell, nor has he made his contract demands public. That does not mean his demands aren't lofty, because I can guarantee you they're probably pretty lofty right now. Okay, let me pull up.
It's the second one. What a contract extension.
I gotcha. It'll show up on your screen here in a second. I don't know. It'll scroll down here to the projection. Probably the best place for people to look at. It's not going to be cheap though.
Do I have the cash flow listed alongside with that?
You do.
I mean, look at the cash flow in the final stage. I mean, 26 million. You have to think Dupree is looking to get paid 26 million in total in 2020 to sign. So that would be signing bonus, which in this example, I think I have a signing bonus of what is it, 20 million. I have a base salary of 2 million, and then a roster bonus of 4 million on top of it. So that gets you to just a cap charge of 10, which is fine. But it's going to take probably between 23 and 26 million dollars in 2020 money to get him signed alone. Now, obviously, the higher, the more he wants average per year, and the more that he wants guaranteed. This particular example technically is just $20 million guaranteed, but it's virtually $26 million guaranteed, because you're not going to sign a guy like that and then cut him right after you sign him. So it's basically 26 million virtually guaranteed, and then everything else after that's option, roster bonuses, and all like that. So to be honest, to me, it's kind of a 50-50 proposition as we sit here right now. But do know that the deadline is July 15th. Right. So I mean, I don't know where people can get on either side of this thing right now based on what the Steelers have said, and we also really don't know what Bud Dupree's demands are either. So I would be surprised if it came in, if he does sign and it comes in less than the franchise tag him out, because that kind of stuff just doesn't happen. So I would say it's 50-50, and we sit here and we wait for July 15th.
Yeah, I'm with you. The Steelers have at least publicly always said that they want to get Dupree signed to a long-term deal. Doesn't mean it will happen. To your point, Hard Punk Core, you say the Steelers front office has been pretty successful, at retaining their talent overall. They have been, but money talks, and as we just mentioned, this team has so many free agents after this season that you just can't sign everybody. So they're going to have to lose somebody. Maybe not Dupree, but if they're going to keep him, they're not going to be able to retain maybe Juju or Villanueva or somebody else. So they just won't be able to keep all their talent this year. Russ, I'm glad you're feeling better. I appreciate you listening, and hopefully you continue to be on the mend. Suleiman Jelani, if the Steelers win the Super Bowl, does Ben go out on top, or does he play out the remainder of his contract? Who's to say? Ben's a competitor, though. I mean, he could come back because he's the most competitive guy in that locker room.
That would be an excellent problem to have.
Just going to say that, yeah.
let's hope we have to wait and find out.
Yeah.
Because I will gladly cross that kind of bridge if we were to get to it here with him. I don't know. I mean, look, if he did win another one, to be number 3. Bradshaw sitting out there with 4, got 1 year left. I would think that he would probably hang around.
Yeah, if his body feels good, then and I assume it does in that scenario of winning a Super Bowl, then he probably will stick around as long as his body, I think, allows him to. But as you said, Dave, very good problem to have. Mike Cantwell, you comfortable with the inside linebacker depth? I'll leave my answer short. I am. I'm pretty high on UG3. I think he's a talented player. I want to see more of him, so I'm fairly comfortable there. A couple more questions. Russ, I think we're going to have some nice surprises like Dotson, Highsmith, and McFarland. Yeah, I think those are all 3 talented players, Russ. Nick, under the current circumstances, do you think fans will be at camp this year? I really hope so. I have no idea. It's a little hard to be optimistic right now. There is a little bit of positive news from the NFL. They want to try to keep things relatively normal, but it's hard to say. The good news, obviously, it would be outside, which is easier to space people out, but I just don't know right now. Aaron Turchitz, do you think Justin Lane will be in the future for the Steelers? Big year for him, sophomore leap. Tomlin just talked about how they're excited for him. I had my concerns with him coming out of Michigan State. They really have not been answered yet, but a young guy. So again, a big year, I think, for Justin Lane. Duck Swagger, sorry, similar question, but did you like Claypool better than Deontay or Washington coming out of college? Dave, where would you kind of rank them if you had to rank those 3?
Claypool, Deontay, and who?
James Washington.
Coming out of college, wow. The thing about Washington is he, so many big plays over the top with him. The thing with Claypool, they're different guys. Deontay was more. Look, I didn't know as much about Deontay until after the selection with him because he's just one of those guys that kind of flew way under the radar with me pre-draft last year. So most of what I learned about Deontay and his college career came the few weeks right after the draft. Now a little bit with Claypool, I knew a lot more about Claypool ahead of this year's draft than I did Deontay ahead of last year's draft.
Mm-hmm.
And I obviously knew a lot about Washington pre-draft last year. So I mean, I don't know how to answer that. I mean, they all kind of 3 different little bit receivers there. But I'll tell you this: Claypool, doing that complete contextualization on him game by game, I learned a lot about him.
Yeah, no, that was definitely, I think, a helpful guide for me as well to learn more about him, and hopefully for the readers as well. Yeah, it's hard for me to do those compare contrast questions. If I had a grading system, I could obviously do that. Maybe it's something I'll work towards for the future. My gut would say Deontay, Washington, Claypool, but it's hard for me to say right now. I didn't love any one of those guys. I didn't hate any one of those guys coming out, if that helps you at all. Captain Spartan 04 says, I know it's too soon to say, but for right now, it's looking like a deep offensive tackle class in 2021. I know y'all are worried about the old free agents next year. Just wanted to keep your head up. I appreciate that, and hopefully, because they may need it to be a good tackle class next year. Russ says, okay, I think Dave's face will be like mine and show signs of partying days in our younger years. Okay, Russ. Tim Ray, everyone seems to love Minka and Jaden. Does that mean Hayden? But where is all the love for Nelson in the media? Yeah, our Owen Straley just wrote an article or did a video the other day you guys should check out showing how good of a year that Steven Nelson had. He is probably flying under the radar nationally, and he was an excellent player last year for Pittsburgh. So very good pickup for Kevin Cooper, which is good because a lot of the other free agent signings he's made recently, unfortunately, have not worked out. Couple more here. Duck Swagger. This year's draft class should be called a class of upside. I feel like all of our picks have high ceilings if they can get there. Claypool, McFarland, Highsmith, Dotson, etc. Yeah, that's a fair way to put it. I also classify it as a special teams class because that's how their impact is going to be most felt in year 1. Captain Spartan 04, where can I find some of the most athletic safeties come out of the past drafts? I looked up what Steelers look for on the site and couldn't find any links to previous years about safeties. That's because they hadn't been drafting enough to give us enough information and data on that. But if you go to NFLCombineResults.com, I think is the URL, you can go find historical combine information, and that's how you can look up just overall classes, not Pittsburgh, but also just prospects coming out. That'd be my recommendation. All right, I think that's about it. Russ says, if Ben is healthy, I say we win Super Bowl, and Ben wants 2 more. Again, I hope so. Russ also says, hope Dave on the next Depot podcast can give us a cap update. Nobody does it better than you. Yeah, any cap info we should know about right now, Dave?
No, it's the same since they signed those undrafted free agents. It's like 5 point. Hold on just a minute here, and I'll tell you the exact number as we sit right here. If I can get the NFL, at any given time, people can go to the NFLPA.com site and then click on the public salary cap report. Depending on how many days it's behind, which right now it's not, they can get the little update right there. It's they're 5.741 million under the cap right now, and that's with 90-man roster, and that's with the undrafted free agents sign and their signing bonuses accounted for. So it's current right now on NFLPA.com, which is weird because that normally doesn't happen during a season.
And draft picks getting signed should happen relatively soon.
It all depends. You would think that start around the league they're starting to happen. So
Yeah.
they would happen pretty soon, I would think. There's no reason. I mean, they're all slotted deals, so it's just getting those guys in, getting them probably physicals and stuff like that when you can, and going from there. With the facility opening up this week, maybe we'll start hearing about some signings this week of the lower guys.
Good point. Devin Snowden, should we fear the Ravens if they sign Antonio Clown? Again, cross that bridge if when we come to it. He's got to get cleared by the league and all that stuff, so I think we're still a ways from maybe signing anywhere in football, though I would not be surprised if he's given a chance by some team, potentially Baltimore, down the road. And our last question here from Gary H. Looking back on next season, where would the kick punt return team need to end up in overall rankings to consider it a success? Out of the basement, they've been bottom 3, I think, for 3 straight years. I think bottom 2 for the last 2, I believe. So, I mean, I would love to at least be average. It's kind of my goal, as sad as that sounds. But get out of the basement. That's got to be the goal for the Steelers.
I tell you where they need to be, in the end zone.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get past the 25 right now. Because it's been abysmal. I'll have to go back and look. It's been a while since I looked at the numbers, but they've just been. And I know that it's less important. And I had a tweet the other day, and everyone's like, "Well, they don't do kick returns anymore. Who cares?" But it's still important. And whenever you do get chances, they should be much more productive than they are, because it has been abysmal.
Catch the ball, run fast, straight.
You're hired. You're Danny Smith's assistant, Dave.
Bring
some gum.
All right,
guys, that's going to do it for our hour. As always, we'll be here next Monday from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time for our live stream. Mike, thank you so much for being here. Same to you, Russ, and everyone else that was here for the live chat. We'll have the podcast, of course, starting every Tuesday, Friday for the rest of the offseason. So we'll have the podcast tomorrow and have some great content for you guys lined up this week. So I appreciate you guys being here talking with us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Peace and love.